Hello friends, everything in today's video is never financial, investment, or trading advice of any kind. Everything's just for entertainment, educational, and comedic purposes only. I eat red crayons for breakfast. Trading in the markets carries substantial risks. Never trade more than you can afford to lose. And especially be aware against high leverage trading. Past performance is never indicative of future performance. Our first crypto, Flare, has a heavy link to XRP. For the crypto FLR, it doesn't appear to be in a good spot at the moment. We do have some type of uptrend. However, when we had this moment, based on these, let me give you another color. Based on these large energy centers here, oh, I'm sorry, this one right there, yep. We had an angle like this. We had projected the upper angle, even getting a vortex if price were to be in that area and primed, which it's not. But we had a concern once we broke underneath this area with some solid closes. Now, the way we can easily confirm this type of breaking of the trend line is on the higher time frame. So if we're looking at a daily chart, each one of these candles that makes up this is 1 day worth of time. We're going to go to a higher timeline, like a weekly chart. And we can see that sometimes we have nothing to worry about at all. However, at the moment, we did get some candles that were closed under the weekly chart before coming back up. Now, what that does, at the very least, even if it does multiple things, what it does is it decreases the power of the line, because after a while, if price stops respecting and you fail to get the bounce where you're supposed to, and you start building underneath and building back on top, then it destroys the work of the line itself. It starts losing its power, and that's basically how we can resolve those ideas. One of the ways we can represent that in our art is by simply taking the line and fading it away. So we're going to take the line, click on it, and then our toolbar, we're going to come up to the thickness or the color, and then we're going to come up here, right here next to the color, and then we're going to just fade the opacity down here. You see that on my screen right there? Okay, so we're going to just start fading this line away. And what that does is it removes some of the strength visually in our eyes so that we don't put all of our weight on that line. People who have lots of lines that are just equal color or equal weight, we tend to get confused. So we want to remove some of those things from our eyes, because basically a health failed to appear there. So therefore, this alone in that area at the time was a sign of weakness. Now that was in March 24th. Okay, that the first real close below that was March 24th week. Okay, so that was a sign of weakness appearing, even if it's not immediate. Okay, so if we wanted to label this, we could come and pull up a white pencil, and we'll point and say weakness appeared. Weakness appeared. Now in our previous chat, you guys saw me with this yellow circle. There's a reason we put these circles on the board to help you remember where some of these weakness areas are. Okay, but that's not a good thing. And now because you would say, Jason, we're back up. Well, what we do is you can put an X on those lines so you can understand when the line itself is broken, okay, or the line is breaking. So we stop looking so much at that line for its purpose, or it's what we think, what we suspect. When we're doing charts, it's a lot like we're investigators. We're trying to understand the fullness of what we're looking at. But we have to paint all the pieces on the board, and then we can see who's winning the battle. Okay, so let's go a little bit further. If this isn't the strongest area, what areas may be the strongest? What areas may be active? What are we actually looking at? I'm going to point out one new one for us that we haven't seen, and then we're going to look at the downward oscillation. So if we come up from this area, come down here, we're going to be looking at these two areas, 1 and 2, what angle do they form? What can we extract from that area? One of the angles we can be looking at is by drawing those together. So if we draw these two angles together or stretch out a line and then click it in place, we're going to get an angle that looks something like this. Now let's give this a new color since it's a separate angle. We can watch that one. This is going to act like some resistance. Already there's some evidences that this angle is powerful, and right now, before we had it as a vent line, it is basically the last big event that would happen before the breakdown, but it also acts like a key angle. Event lines and key angles are often the same, and because they cross over. When I use labels such as event line or phantom angle, mid-phantom, often they're the same exact angle within a set of family. The reason I label them is so that you can isolate a principle. Because if you only think like key angles, you forget to think about the event line principle. If you only think about event line, then you'll forget to draw all the key angle family. So I do these in a way, I give these certain labels so that you will gleam or capture in your mind or in the art one component. All the components work together to form active pieces, and the more you see, the more comprehensive your art is. One such example in real life, it should just wrap your mind around it, is if you're painting a picture or drawing a beautiful sketch. It starts with the form and gesture. It starts with that gesture. Once you get that, then you can move into some of the outlines, and then you can get into some of the details. So if we're doing a picture with pen and ink, the first thing we may do is draw the gesture with a graphite pencil, and then we start inking out, and then we start getting the major portions of the figure that we're trying to draw, or what composition we're trying to draw. Then we can start bringing in the details. After those details, you can stop there, but many people choose to start going on to shading. So then we start bringing value, and we start bringing the grays up, and bringing the light in, and then from there you can bring in color. And really, there's no limit to what you can apply to keep making your art beautiful. With a chart, it's much of the same way. And yes, there's a difference between shading and difference between the sketch, and the difference between the inking, and the difference between the highlights of the inking, but they're all connected. And is there an overlap? Absolutely. Sometimes people are looking at our chart room and they're getting overwhelmed, you want to think of it a lot like art. It is an art, and there are rules within art, there are principles within art, and there's a lot of bending of those rules and bending of the principles. So this is one such thing. So what we're going to do, I'm going to change this angle to be the same angle so you can understand for today. And let's move this up to the side so you guys can see that. Okay. Now, if we have an angle that looks like this, it's not being touched, we want to see if we can make any adjustments for this. Just a few moments ago, we drew an angle. We had an angle from our previous called event line. This is the angle we were looking at. But if we adjust it to try to capture the wicks from just last week, we might have a more accurate angle. So let's take this angle and see if it's exactly the same as the phantom on top, to see if we can get by with the same principles. Many times we can. Here we can get by with cores in the foundation area, core, and maybe that wick. And if I check the wick side, maybe we have event angle / key angle. If we have this that overlaps, let me delete this tiger line. If we have this that overlaps the wick side, put more weight on it. So for this, I'm going to say that this is probably a powerful oscillation. This is probably an oscillation we want to pay attention to. It may be dominant at the moment. Now, final thing I'll say about this commentary, don't get caught so much in labels. Don't get caught up so much in labels. Okay. Look at it a lot like an art. All right. Okay. Yeah, that's correct. Did you have logarithmic view?
Yeah.
Okay. Now we're going to look something else about this chart, and we are going to. Yeah, that's probably right. Okay, something else about this chart that I'm gonna highlight. We're going to look at flats, okay? Something I want to do, I don't want to spend too much more time on this crypto. We had an old shortcut. It's all done, right? All of that's done. This is another shortcut that is done. I'll just delete that one. I'll leave on the real big one. We don't need these healths at the moment. They're all going to move down the track. And what I'm going to show you, this next one that I'm going to show you, is that it's a very possible that flats may be active in this chart. I need more evidence, but I'll give you the evidence I have. Okay? Here are some of the evidence I have that flats may be active. If I take this old top right here, around the core area, we can see that price comes up to this area. And if I look in the past, about right here, you can see this is where we had a very big disconnect between some older events, and then we just stop here and get stuck right here. This is back basically where price fell and trading resumed, and this fell a big fall in January of 2023. So trading seemed to be resumed normal about this area. We also have previous areas in the past where flats may have been active. Round structure, we come back up to the flat, high level round, or high level core is what we call in our lessons, on our lessons page. Okay. Now, if this is the case, and we're looking at round action in these charts for its purpose of flat, then where we might want to look at next may be the flat on the opposite side of the oscillation, somewhere here. Okay, somewhere here. Now, I want to put this out there. If flats are active, you're going to see flats act up a lot. And here may be a recent flat, although it's a different area. It's about right here approximately. Okay, this is a smaller flat, but it may be also just as important. Here we can see price came to a wick in this area, then bounce, and then bounce again, and bounce again. And yes, we're wicking down lower, and there's evidence that this is a support, but you can use this as a marker. Now, without any further ado for this crypto, I'm going to quickly give you the answer to where it's more likely to happen. We have evidence that weakness appeared, and I'm just going to highlight this, and then I'm going to show you in the volume something I'm going to be looking at. Okay, weakness appeared. Okay, weakness appeared here, and this is a big, and I know I normally write weakness. The line is being destroyed on this line. We can even fade this almost all the way away right now so that I don't have so much weight on you. Weakness appeared here, and what we're going to be looking at now is volume at these three areas, and I'm going to highlight it for you in just a moment. We're going to look at the volume at this flat to indicate if we are still coming down here. Now, if we have an indication after we measure this area that we're going down and weakness is in here, then we are more likely to take a short so that we can take the short at a higher price and make money on the way down here rather than the lower price. If we have to take it here, that's okay, that's fine, that's safer. But if we get an entry up here, that's going to be even better. So is the incentive, I don't want the incentive to just be that we're coming to this area. I want the incentive to be that we're coming down to this area, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. Let me delete this picture, and I'll show you what we're going to do. We're going to look at the volume at these three areas quickly, and what we're looking for is we're going to be, let's delete the image. Let's hide our notes, I should say. All right, drawings. Okay, I'm going to look at the volume, and we're going to call this our macro VSA, or micro VSA, which is just a look at the small individual groupings of volume. If there is, what we want to see is the supply being absorbed, and that helps sustain higher prices. But if the volume supply has not been absorbed at this VZB or volume zone block, then that means that the supply has at this area has not been absorbed. That's what that would look like. Now, this is what I suspect. So this is what we're going to be looking for. We're going to be looking for an increase in volume. One of these three scenarios. Number one, an increase in volume. Number two, we're going to be looking for a equal volume. That means the volume is just still high, but equal. And third, we're going to be looking for aggregately high, which is going to look something like this. These are the scenarios we will be looking for in the volume, where the volume is just still high relative to its neighbors. If those are the scenarios primarily in these areas, then that means that the bulk of the supply has not been removed. Okay? And that's not good for higher prices. That would make higher prices less likely if the supply is like that. Okay? That would mean that the supply has not been absorbed. Okay? So let's look at this scenario to see if this is the case. And it makes it less likely. So here's the volume. And we'll see what we're getting in the VSA. This is a simplistic way to view this strategy of the volume. Here we can see our volume was beginning with just a little bit aggregately high. And then we have this big increase in volume in the second area. Okay. And then for the third time, it was very likely we're going to challenge that area again because we had such an increase in volume at this bottom here. Okay. The third time when we come back to these areas, we got some low volume here and then some high volume at the bottom when we dipped a little bit further, but it's a shakeout bar. And shakeouts are often a continuation pattern. Usually the major trend continues, if there is a trend. But this one, I'm going to say, is simply aggregately high. Okay, so I don't believe that the supply has been absorbed in this area. So it's just as I suspected, or I believe this is a more clear indication that the VZB supply has not been absorbed. Therefore, higher prices are less likely, and lower prices are more likely. Okay, that's how that works. So in this example, we're probably having a higher incentive to come down. So therefore, this is something I'm interested in shorting. Okay, let's put some commentary on here, and we will move on to, we'll go down to the smaller time frame because of the, let's put the date. June, what's today? June 4th. June 4th already. Wow. Because of the increase in volume at the 0.013 range, I performed, there's 0.3 range we performed today in today's video. I suspect lower prices are much more likely with the next main supports likely at point, and then the prices is going to be these areas down here. So I'll give you the conservative number 0.008. 0.008. Okay, so that's what I'll say. And to indicate this in a format, let's give you these prices. We're going to text them on bottom. It's going to be 0.0087 to 0.0079. Okay, so I'm going to suspect that prices are going to be coming there. And I'm going to put a little arrow. You guys can follow along. Remember, you're going to be doing this by yourself in the future. This will be very much of a helpful. So this scenario is what I'm talking about in here. Okay, something like this. So flare, it's not in a good spot. We're probably going to get below down to here. Okay, in that area. 007 is going to be the number I'm going to be looking at, which is the high side. All right, any other questions, comments, my thoughts on Flare, the weekly chart? There's only one more image. Take a screenshot right now. There's one more image. I'm going to show you the weekly chart, the daily chart where we started. It's very possible a parabolic is building up in this foundational area. Let me clean up this chart a bit. Okay, and that this is a weakness that is appearing at this moment. So I will denote that on your chart. Price already hit its upper target on here May 9th. It's finding still rejection in this area, which is its first target. So it's hit it, stretched up to the higher target, and appears weaknesses are forming. So if the markets continue to do bad, or altcoins continue to do poorly by Bitcoin receiving more of the dominance, then you're going to see this crypto most likely continue going down. All right. I don't see any comments, so we're going to move on. The next one we're going to look at is something called WHITEROCK. I got WHITEROCK on MEX. There's one of my charts. Is that it? Yeah, it's only one on MEX. All right, and it looks like I did a map a long time ago. I had just a little bit of lines for this at that moment. Let's go to, I think I might have done this on a smaller time frame, because I did this on a smaller time frame. It looks like I may have done a gesture line based on this, or based on the parabolic. This was our health. This was one of the targets. We can see this was also one of the previous targets, and this was the upper target. All of these were fulfilled and hit. This one, and then price even building on here a little bit of here in this area gave us a good chance for prices to actually start doing and building and doing something nice. And we can see that price was hanging on for quite a while, and it's very possible we need to view this as a secondary accumulation zone. At the same time, you can start drawing. I'm going to give you guys another parabolic. Okay, I'm going to borrow this parabolic. Let's give it a different color as to denote a different angle. I'm going to collect these tops here, core, and we're going to level that out. So if we level that out, we can use this as a baseline. Now it doesn't come back full circle because price doesn't go backwards, but where it does start leveling out, that's where we need to draw our straight. Okay, so we can borrow or we can take a flat line, and then we're just going to stretch it out in yellow. So that's where we're going to be looking. Okay. And then now we have some larger round action, so we want to use that as well to our advantage. Even if we're drawing that, we are going to be drawing the straight as well. So those are going to be two things. Now that we have a lot more data to work with, I'll draw the straight first. The bottom will still stay in the same spot. We're going to stretch that one out, so that will continue out. Oh, it looks like we hit this another time. Okay, so that's a third time. So this will be a very important area for you guys to pay attention to, this parabolic here. I will continue it out. And I also want you guys to pay attention to June 14th. Okay. There's an important vortex there. I think what's going to happen is around June 14th. Even if price is not coming back to this area, this is going to be an area where we're going to want to pay attention because of the vortex. Now I'm going to do a different teaching on the vortex in Sword Method 7.0. We're going to do some more advanced work, and I'm going to show you something new, something very interesting about the important trend lines, not just the vortex areas, but the important trend lines when they intercept other important areas and how it affects on price. So we're going to look at that in more in depth in the future. But for right now, I just gonna highlight those dates for you to watch, and I just want you to look for prime vortexes. Vortex June 18th 2025. It looks like somewhere around there. Yeah, so somewhere around June 18th, I'm gonna be paying attention. Okay. All right, so that's our straight. Now I'm gonna draw another area, And we're gonna, because we have such a big disconnect when prices was at this area of 002, when we were in this area, we were missing that as part of the equation. So we got this nice big bounce, and we got this nice round action, and the prices are higher. But what about this structure? What it does, it starts forming a third point. 1, 2, 3. And what we have to do is we have to be honest with the curvature. And in this case, we're going to see that it's an inverted parabolic. So we're going to want to represent that on the chart for a time in the future. Now we can borrow this. Hey, where's my leveled up parabolic? Oh, I deleted it. Okay, there it goes. Came back. Okay, we want to bring this, we want to borrow this parabolic but give it a different color. The reason we want to give it a different color is because it's a different angle. So to bring a different visual representation in our eyes. So I'm going to try to find out where they level off. Okay, approximate area. So I think the approximate area for this level off is going to be somewhere up here. That's what I'm going to say. Now I'll give it some prices for you. 0.00049 to 0.00047. So 49 to 47, about where I see that. And the upper parabolic 0.00077 to 74. So those are going to be some places we're going to put on the board that we want to be looking at. Alright, so now we're left with something like this, and we have a new high that is forming. Okay, that's fine. One of the ways we can now start gleaming where we're going to next, this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to now go to a daily chart, verify my angles are still my angles. Let's take this as a key angle to test. We're going to bring this up to the highest energy center in this area. It should be up there. Price is not hit there yet, but it's worth putting that price on the board. It's quite high, 0.06. By the way, current price is 0.01, so this would be like 6 times greater. If price hit that right now, it would be really high. It'd be around 330% just until that high, which is crazy. If that were to happen at the moment, 330%. Next, we're going to account for the oscillation here. So we're going to use this as a key angle. We're going to bring it straight up in the air and click it in place, and we're going to use that. Now at the core, we can see there's already some rejection that might be in this area. So this oscillation may be dominant. What I mean by oscillation, price playing within a area. So that might be one. Another area might have been this angle here, the straights. And another might even be something based on this parabolic. So let's draw them all so we can see which ones are in play and which ones are dominant. Now eventually you want to make sure you take those flats, level them out, 0.003, 0.0032. Oh, sorry, 0033 and 32. So that's going to be basically this area up here. Now the lower parabolic, since this one was already hit, okay, we want to really look for verification for it. Now maybe that's some verification. It needs to be straight down. Good. Doesn't look like so much verification for me in oscillation, but the parabolic is something. If it is, one of the things we can do is once we understand what the oscillation is, we basically take the distance of the oscillation and we duplicate the whole thing and put it on top. This helps us identify where the resistance is supposed to come in. So the DP projection for this oscillation is about right there. DP at 0.0028 to 0.0024. Okay, so that's basically the duplication of this oscillation to a target. So this one is already hit, so there's no real money on the board based on this one. So I'm going to put the word hit both this area. So we're not really looking for no new entry or no new target, no new target or projected target, I should say. Projected duplicate projection. Okay, DP. Okay. So we can delete that one, right? All right, good. So that's off the board. Is there any other oscillations that may be active? What's the things we have to worry about? We're looking at prices getting stalled, stagnant, hitting here. So if I'm trying to find an entry, I'm going to be looking in a few places. I'm going to be looking at if this crypto falls, I want low prices on top of this old support. So 00077, maybe June 18th is going to afford me that opportunity. If we come down, that would be the price I want to pay. Then we'll be looking to maybe possibly come back up to the pink area or even higher. That's one way we can get around this. Weakness may appear when we're underneath that area. Maybe that's going to be something. Let's move this off to the side about this price level. And for right now, I think that's all I'm going to give you guys with this one. If I'm doing, there's something else I'm going to give you guys. One more thing. This is a little advanced. Okay, so I'll give you one more. When we have two parabolics, and let's see, I want to see if anybody knows the answer first before I give it to you. If I have a parabolic on the bottom and I have a parabolic on top, does anybody remember from my lessons, it might be in my lessons, I believe I've taught on this a few times, what do we do to solve the equation for two opposing angles? Okay. What do we do to solve the equation for two opposing angles? Two opposing or different angles. What's the technique we use to solve that equation? Lisa got it. Good job. It's Tiger. If the angles are not straight and the angles are parabolic, what do we call that? It has a special name. Okay.
Can you repeat the question?
If the angles are parabolic rather than just straights, what type of tiger do we? I should say, if one is straight and one is angled, what do we call that one? Let me give you an example here on our live chart. If one is curved here, sorry, let me use this example. Okay, this would be an example of this one. This is just a bonus question. If I got one straight and one curve like this, what type of tiger do we call it in our art? If that was the answer. Anybody remember? I forgot. Okay. The answer is mixed tiger, which is a baby of the both. And we have to use the scaffolding technique to find the answer to that. And it usually is not exactly straight. It's not exactly a tiger it's a normal tiger, but it is a type of tiger. But tigers are offshoots of the two major angles. And that's a little freebie. Because what we need to do is find out the dominant angles and then use those angles to extract what the most likely support will be. So for right now, if I'm going to give this a label or to find out which ones are strong, I'm going to be looking at this angle, and I'm also going to be definitely looking at this angle. Okay. These areas are going to give us the two dominant angles or the major angles that are in play. Okay, when I see this and we know they level out, how do I get the tiger from this angle or from price plane like this? How do I extract the core angle, and what type of angle is it? How do I pull out the tiger from this? What does the tiger look like in this example? It's quite simple. Nobody? What do you suspect, my friends? There's an answer to this, and I'll tell you what it is in just a moment, but I want to see if you guys can get it. Because if you see all these oscillations, you're like, okay, great, J-Song, but what do I do with all those oscillations? We look at those oscillations like a problem. In calculus and in math, what they'll do is they'll take multiple equations as individual pieces, and they put those together. You could do the same. Okay, using the basic principles. So if I'm left with one angle like this, one angle like this, what is the tiger? Does anybody know what the tiger would look like? It's a baby between these two angles. 10 seconds, please. Somebody see if you can find the answer, and then I'll give you the answer and we'll move on. Okay, what is the answer? Mixed. Okay. It is mixed, but I'm not looking for a word. I'm looking for you guys to draw on the screen or to do the image. I'll give you the answer. It's here. I'm going to duplicate this image so that you guys can have the answer on the board. Okay, good. The answer is, I'm going to get my crayon out. Okay, answer, flat. Okay, and it's not always just a regular flat, but it's a tiger flat. Okay, why? If I find the baby, we remember these level off, right? So what's the middle area from that? It's basically the middle of a flat. It's just a bit phantom. It's a flat line. We know this because this is just going this way and that's going that way. So the mixture of those two, what's a mixture of these two? If you were to do the scaffolding technique, you're just going to find out the halfway point from the scaffolding is just a flat line in this example. Not in every example, but it's quite simple in this example. So it's flat, okay? So if I was drawing the tiger line in orange, it would be a flat. Okay. Does that make sense to you guys? You're like, oh yeah, now I see, right? Not hard, okay? A flat line. So therefore, in this example, and I could write this down in the notes. Therefore, in this example, we are searching, I'm showing you guys the secrets. We are searching for a flat. Now to prove this, we're going to be looking for verification also. So we're going to say asterisk, look for evidence of active flats / verification. Okay, forgive my handwriting. I was absent the day they taught handwriting in school. Okay. So we're going to be looking. Take a screenshot of this. I'm going to show you. And you guys can have a full screen. There it is. Okay. Take a screenshot. One day this equation may come up. You guys will be sitting at a table with millions of dollars on the line. And you're going to be like, how do we do this? What do we do? In this example. And you're going to remember this lesson. And you're going to be like, I see two different parabolic angles. And you're going to be like, how do we solve it? And I'm telling you how we solve the equation. Okay, so I'm going to be looking at flats, therefore. All right, so what we can do is go back to our active chart, pull up a line. Let's borrow this blue one, this blue flat at the bottom. Now we already have a blue flat on the bottom, and I suspected back then that maybe an active flat for whatever reason, maybe back in the day. But let's take this flat now and put it at various places, and we're going to look for some examples of flats. Now maybe this is part of that flat. Okay, maybe there's some evidence there. Okay, or maybe. Let's fade that one away. Let's give ourselves another one. Maybe up here, there's some evidences of flats. What do you guys think? At the core, we got some wicks here. We got some wicks here. Maybe that's why we had leveled out parabolic. Maybe that's something. Let's check the wick side. The wick sides, they're looking like they're in the same areas as well. Maybe that's part of that case. What about this old high right here at the core on the daily chart? Is there possibly where we're looking for? If there is evidence of the flat, that's where we're going to place it next. And we already have the flat there. We're trying to get the baby. We're trying to understand what's primary going to be emerging as dominant. And right now, even if it was trending, this is where we start changing to flats, or the flat starts becoming a more dominant type of thing. And right now, I'm going to say, therefore, this is a support. Okay, that's how I'm going to do this. Normally, I don't put a lot of weight on just on a one peak. But when we start extracting what it is, the angle that's going to be the most emerging as the most dominant angle, we're going to place those at the relevant areas, just like we do the KR. If I were to put it back here, it's already active and it's in the same area. If we were put it at the bottom, then we're going to be looking for tops, and if we brought it here, we already did that one and that's active. So we're left with an image that might look something like this. Therefore, we have verifications that the flats may actually be at work, at play, and we're looking for health at this area, and we'd be looking at health in this area. So I'm going to say right now, it's more likely that this white rock is in a good spot. Okay? It's in a good spot at the moment, or has at least a chance to be going up. Now, it's maybe a higher price for me to pay. I don't know if it's going to be able to stand, but I would be looking for some kind of bounce in that area. And then underneath that, we're going to be looking for us to come back down to this area. Okay, but those are going to be the two areas I'm going to be paying attention to. Do I have any other questions, my thoughts regarding this crypto? Going once, going twice. Okay. That's going to be my final image for this one. Okay. All right. Let's move on. That's WHITEROCK. All right, we'll do the next one. And I got SHX. Stronghold. Stronghold. Okay, let's go to our gesture line that we drew here. I last drew a gesture line encapsulating the essence of this line. It's a little advanced. It's a new technique we have in the bonus sections of Sword Method 6.0. And it lets us know predominantly, once we extract the actual angle, where the real tops should emerge and where the next health should be. So in this example, we were looking at a resistance here, and this is where the health would be. By the way, one moment, I want to see my old image. Wow. So here's an image from April 30th. April 30th. It's a previous image from April 30th. Wow, this is great. Yeah. Man, are these charts good or what? EVS. I hope these techniques are helping you guys. Okay. We drew this area looking for the health and weaknesses. So we knew the resistance is there. We need some closes above here to actually do anything good or bullish. The weakness would have been underneath here, by the way, too. But in our previous map, we knew these numbers. This is fantastic. This is great. And if we don't get the health and we get the rejection off of here, this was our previous weakness that we had drawn in red. Remember, you don't have to have these red lines on here, even if you didn't have a red or you didn't have a green. If you have just one of the colors on the opposite side is the other color. They're like stop signs on a coin or something like that. Let's clean up this chart a little bit more. This one, we're going to move up the track. The track needs to be extended out, by the way. So now we're in a little bit of new territory. Okay. So from our previous understanding of this crypto, we're in a strong uptrend. So it's a very strong uptrend. Okay. Examining the volume on the weekly charts, we can see the market is harmony bullish on the crypto. This crypto does not want to be bearish. Okay, so we're going to be looking for opportunities for this crypto. Okay. In the macro. Okay, the macro volume is when we take the volume in its entirety in the story and we start extracting where we're really gravitating to. So this crypto is not wanting to gravitate into weakness. It's trying to build into higher places, even if it's not for the short term. We're trying to go to higher places in the overall. So we're going to be wanting to be, I guess according to that video, we want to be more biased towards looking for entries on a crypto like this one. Strong still uptrend is very strong, so we're going to still be looking for our previous health. So if we don't get them, we can't take our trade, we can't trigger our entries. Don't force it. Just like we haven't got our next big entry yet here. If we're going to pay those prices, if we're going to buy it anyway, we want to pay along a health track. So we want to buy it somewhere at a low price when there's health. Now, I will zoom in real quickly to a 12-hour chart, and I would say that if I'm going to be buying it, we could use something like this as an entry, like that. Okay, you can use a smaller, maybe straight, therefore this is area is here is the health, just like you can see. So where it's close to an entry, and therefore if we move back here without the weaknesses fully appearing, then we're more likely to move up. But if we start getting closes underneath here, then it would destroy the line. This hasn't happened just yet. It would destroy the line or weaken the line, and then we might be showing the sign of weakness. Even if we come back up and there's a shakeout, we're not going to be it will look something like that. So those are the two big scenarios that might happen at this area. Now I want to examine a little bit further. Because we never got the entry, we only got a rejection. Is this rejection still strong? Currently it looks a little parabolic to me, so we might be looking at something like that. I will draw that as a possibility, but I don't think it's going to be super strong as a resistance. Maybe is it going to act like a health more probably yes. Let's see now. Let's do some updates to this. I'm going to draw the angle based on these. So I'm going to draw a new angle here, and let's give that a color. So if I have an entry right now, I'm not going to be super excited about how much potential wealth is on money might be available. There's a very small movement between here and here. What is this, like 5%, something like that? 8%. There's only 8% move until, even if we get a small health on a smaller time frame, before we get into the next resistance. So really, the case stands that we want to be on this side. We want to be over here. The vortex for that, I'll give you the date. It is June 20th. Okay, so maybe we're going to pay attention more towards June 20th. That might be something you want to be looking at. Okay. And let's see, what else could we be looking at right now? If I'm going to continue out the gesture line, it's going to just be the same. Leveled out parabolic in this area. That price is going to be around same price, 0.010 cents. So 0.10. So not 10 cents, but 0.10. Okay. So I would say that the health, there's going to be a health here. That's going to be health number 1. And this will be a health number 2. If I was to try to wrap my mind around what I want to happen to price. I would want price to be in that area so we can have a good chance to bounce out. If price seems to be on the underside of that, would be also a major weakness, and then we would be looking to come down. With altcoins, possibly not in the best spot. I don't know if we're going to be able to get its bounce. I'm not betting on it to happen beforehand. I want to watch this, therefore, a little bit closer. Okay, I'm going to watch this a little bit closer, but that's going to be my game plan right now. We're probably going to reject up there in this area. Little health, if we can get that in the next few hours. I'm not going to put so much weight on that at the moment because it's just 8%. Not my cup of tea. It is a support, but I want to be above this watch line based on the key angle, this angle here, acting strong with verification. When we bring it to these lower spots, we're still active. We want to be paying attention to that angle. Okay. Right now, therefore, all this means is that price isn't in a good spot just yet. But if we can bounce, maybe come back up to those pockets, that'd be great. More likely, that requires a lot more effort. And why does it require a lot more effort? Because if all price does the same, we enter a weakness. If all price does, we phase for weakness. So I'm going to write this down in the notes. Look for price to phase. And why is it more effort? Because right now price would need to do something. We would need to rise just for the health to continue. If all it does is just stay in this trading range or in the current stronger trend just for even a few more days, then weakness is going to appear, and like I said, that line is going to be broken. Okay, that's going to weaken the strength of the larger trend. Now, it's not end all be all, and it could still come back up, but it does weaken and put weakness on the boards. So we're going to pay attention. We're going to be looking for price to phase through. All right, any other questions this crypto? Going once. All right, only be with you a little longer. Okay, only a little longer. Let's go to the last few cryptos. I suspect price may phase into weakness at the moment. Price at the weakness. Okay. At the moment, we need more health rather than just this to continue. All right. Let's see what XPR is doing. Okay. I think last we had XPR, we were looking at the next resistance encounter here. This is another resistance that's probably going to become active. The DP projection requires that prices will hit that angle alongside the projection. So basically, if price is playing within the oscillation, we're supposed to get to the next one. Now, it can do it in one of two ways. It can go straight up in the air after the breakout. We can go straight up and hit the line. But other times, like I was just talking about just a moment ago, if price, all it does is phase through, we'll hit that line. That's when we're going to encounter the next resistance. So right now, it's not giving me so much effort to go up. It could be we have to look to see if there's some active accumulation taking place on the bottom side. If not, we're going to be looking for top, and it'll be revealing. And we'll look at that in just a moment. But once it hits there, we're more likely to come down because of the angle. And let's see if we're going to be right. I'm going to suspect a few things first, but let's put a few things on the board. Let's go to our daily chart. Okay, I'm going to look at this in maybe a 2-day chart would probably be better. Come. Slow, not so clear. Okay, and then here. Use the macro. Oh, that's a little leaning bullish. That's not so bad. The macro volume may suggest that they're disinterested in the lower prices and thus phasing through but not yet refusing to fall. Might be a good thing. Let me go back down to the daily chart. On the up moves, we see the increases in volume. And on the down moves, we see the decrease in volume. This should be more apparent on that 12-hour chart then. There's always two ways I view volume, macro and micro. Let me see if I can pull up the moving average. This might be able to shed some light on what I'm doing. Increases in volume on the up moves, decreases in volume on the down moves, or on the down segments, even now. This indicates that the harmony is higher. Now, this is not a tutorial. I do a whole tutorial on this one called the macro volume. Look, macro VSA. Okay. Where's my, there it is. Indicates bullishness. So this crypto actually indicates some bullishness. Wants higher prices. Okay. That's what this means. It wants higher prices. We get higher prices. I'm just letting you know that this indicates bullishness. Okay. So let's go to another analysis. It looks like some of the structure we're going to need to draw are flats. This flat over here has been very active. And we can use this as a clue to find where our next tops and bottoms potentially are. This is going to bring us to think about the bottom as a flat, which we already have a target on the bottom. It'd be something like that. And if I just take this oscillation and duplicate it out, it's going to put us back the distance. We're going to duplicate it out, duplicate, project it. So the oscillation measurement is this distance. I'm going to take that distance, put it on top, and that's going to give us where our next target should be approximately. There. Now this is interesting because we also see evidence, apart from this big spike, that this might be where we're at. Let's go to a daily and maybe even a 2-day chart to see if we can confirm that. Nope. What about a weekly chart? Nope. Cannot. Okay, I'll just leave it on the daily. It'll be some area that I'm going to be looking at. The number for this price is around 005. So does it have a chance to get to its trading range? Yes. Now to map that out, what we can do is just put a health quickly here on the top areas. So we want to be above this area for the next breakout. I'll now give you these prices. So basically we want to see price building above this flat to indicate we're going back up to 0.0056. Okay, I'll write down these prices: 0.0057, 0.0056, and then for the middle one, 0.0040 to 0.0039. Anyone have any other questions regarding XPR?
I'd like to take a screenshot of it.
And let me get you the bottom numbers as well. 0.00279 to 0.00272. All right, the money that might be on the table, by the way, before you take that screenshot, maybe around 39% from the top to the bottom. I don't know if I'd buy it today. I want the breakout, and it's not super high or nothing, but it might be something some of you are interested in. Okay, so go ahead and take a screenshot there, and then I'll give you a few other images, and we'll move on.
I'm not sure who requested this, but did you know this was prophetic? This crypto's prophetic. And you know how Fed wires, something's supposed to happen, they have a deadline for it to be ISO compliant by like July 15th.
Okay.
I believe. I was researching the coins that are tied to that, and there's this new blockchain called Memo blockchain.
Okay.
That's tied to Fed now, and as part of the infrastructure. And this coin is in the Memo blockchain ecosystem. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh. Good, good, good. Wonderful to hear. Okay, I'm going to put in my commentary here. June 4th, 2025. XPR. Currently, the macro VSA on the daily chart indicates bullishness shorter term. If price is above 0.0040 to 0.0039 may indicate a move up towards 0.0057, 0.0056. Okay, that's what I want to say about that one. Okay, I'll take all that screenshot here of the old parabolic so we know the major boundaries, and then going back to the daily chart, and I'll draw a picture for you guys indicating what I suspect may happen next, and you guys can move on from there. And that's where our resistance would be. This needs to be. Let's use this one. Okay. All right. Let's go to PENDLE and then VTR. PENDLE. And I wanted to put XPR possible health coming soon. Yeah. Oh, there's some good things for PENDLE coming up. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to fix some of these lines. We're going to make some adjustments on some of the more relevant stuff. We have a new top, we have a new bottom bounce here, and I want to try to see if I can encapsulate this bottom here if possible. It does mean we're going to be losing out on this one, which gives us room for sword cuts to come back into play like this. So we'll look at that one in just a moment, but let's move some of these off the board and I'll adjust the board. Okay. Let's take a look at, and this is also this also may be apparent in that we have one verification here, but this one doesn't. Okay, maybe it's missing that. I don't know. It wasn't missing. It wasn't. Let me adjust this real quick. Reset the board real quick. I had a few verifications along this angle, didn't I? This might be a weakness, but we're disrespecting it and respecting it. Check the foundational area. I'm going to adjust this on the weekly chart. This needs to come down. Yep, I knew that area was important. Didn't I just... That's where I moved the sword cut just a second ago, didn't I? You guys saw me do that. I knew that area was important. Okay. So I previously had highlighted it to show you guys that wasn't important, but for some reason I didn't have it drawn there. Okay, I'm going to be looking at this area, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. $5.09, $5.11, somewhere around there. Let's get you the price right now. $5.37 for the high, $5.12 for the low. $5. All right. Now, if price is disrespecting this angle, but it was respecting before, yet still playing it above, this may indicate we're dealing with a DP projection. I'm not doing any more tutorial right now, but I'm just giving you guys what I'm analyzing, which means we basically measure the oscillation in a single spot. In this case, I'm measuring it about here. And then we just duplicate it and bring it straight down. And then we bring the angle straight down as well to that spot, and we click it in place. Now I've already done this. It looks like I've already done this, and I've given it to you guys, so it's about $6.10. So if we see a major weakness on the board, it's going to level off about 6.11. So 60, maybe 62 cents is where we're going to level off. So we're going to need to remember that spot. So if price is respecting this angle and then it starts disrespecting, it's usually meaning we're dealing with a larger oscillation. That's what that usually means. Okay. So if we're dealing with a larger oscillation, the measurement for that is going to be here at 62 cents. So that might be a good price for Pendle to fall to if weaknesses start appearing across the board. There is some weaknesses that are going to start appearing in these areas, and I'm going to try to find them in just a moment. But number one, we're going to be needing to look at the sword cut range, which is probably here in this area where we're at right now. So I'm going to be drawing a new sword cut here. And that's where price is currently at today, by the way. So I want to look at this, probably I want to look at maybe an indicator like the RSI to see if I'm getting a lot of pullback in this area. I don't always look at the RSI, but I'm going to look at it right now. I'm going to put this word warning right now for myself. We want to look for possible danger. Okay, I'm going to look at the RSI. Just put my indicators. Here it is, right there, my indicators. Every time they change stuff around, they have updates for TradingView. I can't find where anything's at. They make symbols for everything, and it's okay, but I have to learn it again. But it's right here, okay, on the bottom right here in this bottom of the screen. And the one I'm using is called the RSI. I have a special RSI that I use called, let's see, Simple Neural Network Transformed RSI. You could use a standard one, but I like this one right here. That's the one, Simple Neural Network RSI. And it looks like this. Okay. When I'm doing this, I'll put my mouse in between the two and I'll bring this up like that. Okay. You can also hit the arrow, the little arrow, and flip it there around. So there's a little arrow, one that's up and down, and it changes the panel. So I can switch these around if I wanted to. Alright. But I want to just have it right there, okay? So I'm going to squish and put my mouse here and just make that little full screen. Alright, now I'm going to go back down to my daily chart. And what I'm looking for, and I'll hide my line so you can actually see what I'm looking for. Okay. What I'm looking for is as price is coming up in the relative area that I'm searching for, I'm looking at, first of all, the sword cut range, where I showed you guys, somewhere about right here, where price is at. So we're looking for evidence that we're going to get rejected. And one of the ones we can use for confirmation in that area is the RSI. The RSI, and the way I trade it is I use a method called the pullback method. There's ways that people do it. No, there's lots of different labels for it. But in essence, what I'm measuring is two different areas together. I look for prices. I look for the correlation between the RSI and here in a very unique way. What I'm looking for is one of the indicators to pull back. If the indicator is pulling back, okay, it will look like it's higher and it will fire price downwards like a rubber band. Okay. I thought I heard my son. He's sleeping at my feet. That's weird. Where did he come from? And then, oh, I know where babies come from. Sorry. Get distracted. If the indicator is not pulling back and price is instead pulling back, and you saw maybe price was up here, then the indicator will fire the RSI. So you'll see them work in tandem. A lot of people don't understand that or know that because they only look at what the indicator is telling price. But price will fire the indicator and the indicator will fire price. And this is something I've observed. You guys can test it out at the areas. To other times, RSI is just resetting, not giving you much information. And other times when the RSI is telling you an important piece of information. Now, we're looking at this, you can see that this is the area where price is exactly the same, right? But RSI is not exactly the same. Okay, this one is where RSI is not. RSI is pulling back. Okay, so I can write this word in my notes here. Pulling back. Okay, so when I see the RSI is pulling back, that gives me more confidence that it's going to fire price downwards. Okay, so price more likely now to come in a lower spot because of the pullback. All right, price, and I'll write this down so you guys can see it. Firing lower is likely. Okay. This is a likely bearish. Okay, in this example. So this is a good thing we can see. Another way we can compare it to, some people will just do the extremes and you'll use like these areas, but even then you can see that in this example the RSI is still firing back. Price is much lower than it was here. So we're way down here as opposed to here. So even though price is coming down, RSI is the one still pulling back, even if it's pulling back to itself as equal to. So in this example, either way that you slice it and dice it, RSI is experiencing a large pullback. So if price was up here equal to, I would get it that RSI would be equal. But price isn't equal. It's really low compared to its first, yet RSI is pulled back. So no matter how we view it, whether we use a standard version or even the relative version, we can see that RSI is in prime position to fire price. So both examples are giving us bearishness. Okay, so we're going to be looking for bearishness. Okay, likely. Okay, not guaranteed, but likely. So I'm going to say for PENDLE, I have reasons now to believe that we're going to be rejecting at the sword cut area or the range. Now let's do the sword cut range properly, like I showed you in just a previous image. We're not just looking at the high side, but we're going to be looking at the other areas too. So let me show you what I mean by this. Okay. I always take you for this moment. Every now and then I take you to the corner of the chart, and I have a technique I used to call the clocks. Sword method has the clocks built into our system. I do it all the time. You guys just don't really know I do it, but I teach this every so often. Okay, when we're looking and dealing with the clocks, we basically have health and resistance. Let me use the white. Okay. And price moves up and down within those areas at different angles and accelerated rates, whether down, okay, and it looks something like this. Okay, so that's basically what happens when weakness starts appearing. The crypto will start moving at certain areas, and if weakness is appearing, we can start combining those weaknesses and look for future areas of sicknesses. So this is something we do all the time. And one of the things that we can do is, if our price is moving up like this, where we already found, hey, I'm going to show you what it looks like, okay, with crayon real quick. If I was drawing the clocks, it would look something like this. Now, I used to do this all the time when I was 18 and then years ago. It was the way that I first measured the weaknesses in the board of a crypto or a stock. Back then, I didn't know to do cryptos until just a few years ago, because I didn't know you could. Okay, so this would be the first sign of weakness. And of course, sword cuts come in play and things like that, right? But the next sign of weakness, if we bounce, we have the next area where we look for weaknesses. In this case, the clock would point this direction. And then, of course, we have the sword cut that's relevant. Does this make sense so far? Okay. I'm showing you the basics. Okay. If prices fall again, the next clock would be maybe something like this. Okay. So we're left with something like this. And then this area also becomes critical in the future. We'll label that. Okay. That's something Triple J reminded me of. Okay. Now, what we're looking at, therefore, is a weakness that could appear below the next part of the clock, or where we're looking at. Okay. And ways we can verify that at this moment was our event angles. This is what I've been teaching you guys in the last few weeks about event angle and what's supposed to happen at event angle. We're supposed to bounce at the event angle. Here's our event angle, and then here's the event line, which is the same. Okay, so this is where we're supposed to get our bounce. Okay, but that area also indicates where weakness is supposed to appear if we don't get the bounce, and sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't get it, but it often tells us what's really happening. Okay, so if that's the case, then if we are rejecting at this area instead of getting the health, then the next event angle will be a more sharper angle. So I'll put that on the board for you guys here. So I hope that every now and then I'll do these things with crayons so you guys can actually see in slow motion what actually I'm really doing. Okay, so the board starts getting painted like this, and you can see that price starts moving in these various ways. Okay, so I'll put that on the board, and you guys can recreate this at your leisure. Okay, you guys can recreate. Take a screenshot if you want to. It's really that simple. Okay. Now, if you're only doing event angles, like this is the EV based on that angle, this is the EV that would be hypothetical based on this resistance, this is how we can calculate a few moves in events. But we teach EVs, and there's some in the bonus section. Here's another example of an EV. If you take that angle before the breakout and event line, and you take that angle and bring it to the lower center, it tells you where you're supposed to get your bounce. It tells you in advance where the weakness will come in and where you're supposed to get the bounce. Okay, so things like that can indicate what's really happening next. All right. Okay, but I'll delete that off the board just so you can have the simpler image. Okay, so now let's draw this in real life, and let's see how we do. And I'll give you these numbers, and then we'll be done. Okay, so let's put it back on our drawings. We're going to draw the angle here. Put that in white. Nope, I already used white, so let's use green. Okay. First sword cut area would have been here, which you already talked about in the previous videos. Somewhere in that range. Okay. The next one, let's make sure I'm doing this right. I should be using probably a weekly chart to do this. Oh, by the way, if you put on your RSI, which I did, it changed bar colors. So I like to turn that off. In my settings, inputs, where it says bar coloring, turn that off. Okay, so that's not in the main settings. It's just when you click on the actual indicator in that little hexagonal button right there where my mouse is. Click on it, go to bar coloring, turn that off. Okay, don't let it mess with your bar colors. Okay. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to fade away this line to like a width of 1. Then I'm going to draw another angle based on the less swing. And let's give this a color like yellow. I'm going to make that one bigger. And this is where I'm going to use to adjust. So the cut is here, and the previous one that's more sharper is here. So the range of the sword cut, therefore, is going to be that wide. Okay. So why do you only use range? Why don't you use the exact lines? Most of the time, if prices hit these areas multiple times, and you want to know what that range is, and treat ranges are better because they give you a margin of error anyway. But you want to watch those areas because oftentimes price will hit one side and then it will come up and hit the other side. So if you know where those ranges are, praise God. So again, the high side 537, that didn't change, but the low did, $4.43. Okay. So that's how I'm going to view this right now. I think that's what I'm going to view. And that's going to be based on those 3 angles that we had drew earlier. So there's a green, there's that one, maybe that one also, and then that's all going to help me extract this range. And so I'm going to be therefore looking to be bearish right now. Okay, I'm going to be looking to be bearish. All of this is the health ebbing away. Okay, I'm going to put in my commentary what I see June 4th, 2025, PENDLE. I see the health ebbing away. I see the clock working for the bearishness appearing. Bearishness / weakness is appearing. I feel like I'm prophesying. I don't know why I feel like that. I would be looking for more signs of weakness in the daily charts. The major weakness I see is on the higher time frames, the weekly charts. If price falls hard, I would be expecting price to fall towards And again, the price is around, it's going to level out somewhere around 65 cents. Towards 66 to 65 cents. I thought it was earlier 61 cents, but it's closer to 65. That's where the parabolic levels out. So I'll just draw this in that ice color. Yeah, 0.65 to 0.73. It's just a range I drew in these areas. Okay. It's where these meet, basically. Okay. 65, I should say 66 to 73. Yeah, 66 to 73 cents. Okay. So I would be paying attention to that area. Thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you for all those who joined us for our word room earlier today. I hope you get a chance to listen to our daily reading and commentary. Finally, I'm going to go to a daily chart, and this is why I say I have some concerns with it right now. I think we might be able to get an entry. Now, how I will treat the entry is I'm going to examine this area. By the way, I can do target system. And I can use that to confirm if the targets are on top here. That's going to let me know. So I'm going to measure target system really quick, guys. Yep, look at that, baby. Oh yeah, baby. That's right. Look at where the target's at. Exactly as I suspected. Did I not tell you that I was suspecting that? Guys, don't look. It's not looking good for Pendle. I might be able. This is getting interesting. I'm probably going to want to short this. In the bearish market, this is what I'm looking at. Okay, take a screenshot if you want. Okay. All right, we're almost done. Blessings, man of God. Have you touched XCN, ZBNC? We did ZBCN on this on Monday. Type in the word ZBCN and it'll pull up the image notes. They're already there. I did a big commentary. Also, you can timestamp the YouTube video and just see my full blessings name. Thank you for asking name. I don't know who name is, but whoever you are, praise God, welcome. All right, now the next thing we're going to do, I want to draw the parabolic on the bottom side. And what we're going to do is basically look at the foundational angle. It's this angle. So that's the angle we got to pay attention to, which means the real weaknesses are going to be in here. Price could play here a little bit. If we're wrong, then it will probably bounce in this area, and then the next health will be above here. I don't think I'm going to be wrong in this example. I don't think I'm going to be wrong. The evidence is being too stacked for the bearish side. So you'll be the first to know it. This is where I want to enter the short. That's where I want to enter the short. Okay. So it will look something like that. Okay. I'm going to now, at this time, draw that parabolic. And then we'll be on our merry. Does anybody have any other questions for me today? I won't look at any new cryptos, but I will say that I'm very interested. Everything in today's video is never financial, investment, or trade advice of any kind. It's just for entertainment, educational, and comedic purposes only, never to be taken seriously. I eat red crayons for breakfast in the morning. Trading in the markets carries a substantial risk. Never trade more than you can afford to lose, and especially be aware against high leverage trading. $3.76 is about the average prices for these. $3.76 about some of the average prices for this. So I would like to take that short. I'm probably going to short it possibly down to 65 if prices are falling. But oh no, not 65. At that moment, we will have drawn our hypothetical event line. So we don't know the event line just yet, but it's going to be something like that if we fall. And we're probably going to get down to $61.67. The money that's available probably for that trade is around possibly 120%. Possibly around 120%. Here's 129. Okay, possible large short opportunity. Possible large shorting opportunity. Okay, based on our calculations, we're going to be looking at something like a move from here to here. Okay. All right. Pendle. VRT. Is this a stock? I think it was a stock. Oh yeah, it's a stock. Jeff's stock. Okay, Jeff, we're gonna look at your stock. Venus Rewards nope, that's a crypto. Verity Holdings. PENDLE possible short entries. So, okay, Verity stock. I'm gonna look at it on the NYSE. I just want to make sure I put on here. This is a stock. All right. Okay, let's pull up this and then we're gonna go. We'll be done. Okay, for this stock, oh, great foundational area. We're gonna pay attention to that. Let's draw that. I'll draw a few things for you guys on this stock. 3 points, nice. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we'll be paying attention to some of these prices over here. $47. Current price $112. Let's take a look at another angle based on these larger round structures here. Is it the same angle? Should not be. Should not be. It was resonating strong. It might be still in play. We'll pay attention to a high price of, if it goes up today, this dynamic positive, $246. Dynamic positive. Okay. The next thing we're going to look at, I'm going to account for some of this going on in the more immediate future. So let's draw some of these smaller angles and see where they take us. Oh, ooh, this looks like it might be KR. And what I mean by KR is the dominant angle still just playing and resonating. If it is, which it looks like it is, yep, it is. We're going to match the color to its family, and we're just going to give it like that shape. Okay. We want to replicate the KR at different areas. So let's bring it down to these areas here at the core, and maybe this area right here. Now, it's very likely, since the candle looks really wonky, it's likely we're going to turn on a higher weekly chart and find out that's exactly where we want to place it. Otherwise, we'd want to place it here and maybe there. But I think it's going to be right here. So you'll see a wick jutting out on the higher 2-day and maybe weekly chart. Okay, not on the 2-day weekly chart. Not even on the weekly chart. That's weird. Nevertheless, I'm going to leave it there as a range. Okay, I want to now complete this. So we're going to take one KR and we're going to bring it down to the lower side. And I'm going to be left with something like that. Okay. All right. Now, to continue where I'm looking at, let's go back down to a daily chart. You see the candles really will look funky and wonky. So maybe I'll just use the 2-day chart and just leave it at that. Okay. All right. Let's pull up let's look at the RSI. I use that as an example today. You can see price ebbing higher, RSI going lower. This is an example where this is going to fire price, where the price is going higher, RSI is not. It's going to fire the indicator. In this case, you can see the indicator going lower. And on the bottom side, you can see the price is coming lower and the indicator leveling off. That's going to be a sign that we're gravitating back upward. So that's right. This move is more correct. What I don't like about this stock is this, and I'll show it to you. I'm going to try to draw it for you. Okay? When you see this shape, and I draw it all the time, I start thinking to myself where it moves down, weaknesses are appearing. Okay? When I see that shape, I start thinking to myself, looking for the weakness. Okay? That's how that works. Okay? You guys catch that? Okay. When we see that shape, we hunt the up move, and in an uptrend, we generally hunt the down move. We're looking for where the down move is going to appear. Sometimes, in an uptrend, if we're trying to make money in an uptrend, we're just simply cutting like this and then taking all the buys that we have. But when we see the game changing for the downside, like in these white areas, this is where we take profits or exit or even short. But in an uptrend, we don't short. We just take profit. So if I was in a buy position, this is where I want to start thinking, I got to get out. If I'm in an upward position, it's quite simple. If I'm in an uptrend, I can make money as long as the health is on the board. Once the health is removed, I need to get out. I need to get back in a safer spot so I don't lose my profits. So this is where you want to have take profit. This one is a TP for short. This is these are take profit areas for any longs that you may be in within the larger uptrend. Okay. If the market is extremely bearish or there's opportunities, sometimes there's ways you can short, and then you can use your targeting system to try to find where your support will be at. Things like that. But right now, it also can be used as a clue when the game is changing. For me, I'm going to say that I see the shape starting to appear again. Now this is on a daily chart. This is a 2-day chart. 2-day chart. That means every 2 days another candle is appearing. I think there's going to be weaknesses here. That's how I see the stock, Jeff. Okay. I hope this helps. Okay. All right. Any other questions regarding this stock right now? I will draw that on the board, and I think that's all I'm going to draw for right now. We can calculate where the trajectory will most likely be. It's going to be something like that. And I'll give you a price. If you start seeing that happen, you know what you're probably looking at with more higher degree of certainty. Did you find anything good, Melody?
I don't know, it's just doing like a target thing.
All right. $101 current price, 110. Is that Verity? VTR? Okay, did you do the target system? Okay, and that was the support, right?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, nothing really relevant that's not active. Okay, thank you. Good. All right. With that being said, I would probably suspect weaknesses are going to appear in here pretty soon. And if we pull back, then you can draw a line for the health. But right now, if you were in a position, we'd only want to be in a bullish position right now because we're in a currently healthy area. We don't want to take profit just yet. Okay, that's not where we're here. If the weakness appears, then take profit from any of this move. Eventually the opportunities get smaller and there becomes less money on the board until the game switches. But right now, there's still opportunity. You want to hold on a little bit or carry a trailing stop for this. Any other questions, Jeff? Comments? Your crypto? Yeah.
Can you take a look at the volume and the target analysis?
Let's see. Since I don't really have flat areas to do micro VSA, I will do the macro VSA. Jeff, I'm going to be bearish on this one. I'm going to be bearish on this one. I'm going to tell you why. Okay. I believe the game is changing to the downside at this moment. When I perform let me go to a 2-day chart, and maybe this is going to be a little bit more clear. Okay. See if I can do the clearness. Let me move myself a little bit out of the way. Okay, pay attention, Jeff, for this next part, okay? I'm going to put on the board the word macro, VSA, macro. And I'll give you my analysis on it. I'm going to be bearish, and I'll show you why. We're going to chop up these pieces into its relevant areas. So here's a bullish zone. Here's a bullish zone. Maybe that's one bullish zone. And then here's going to be another bullish zone. Okay, these are easy to do. The bearish zones are going to be more like that and maybe that. Okay, we're going to find and locate what is called the harmony. Okay, the harmony is going to tell us the general gravity or where price is going. Okay, and how we do this, you guys see me do this a lot of times. Harmony is what we look for in the macro VSA. Okay. We try to find the harmony. So this one's going up, this one's going down, this one's going up, this one's going down, and now we're going to be looking for the volume to give us the increase on the direction it wants to go and the decrease on the direction it doesn't want to go. For example, in this, let me get you a little bit more clear. Okay, in this down zone here, from here to here, we can see that the volume is increasing. Okay, there's some increase of activity. We can see in the down zone, this one kind of neutral. Then this down zone, strong activity, strong increase. Okay. In the up moves, back here, we can see that the volume may be leveled off, except for that one. Okay, the individual, we're just talking about the generalness though of the volume. In this up move, we can see that you can see the little histogram indicating the general trend of what's happening. We can see a decrease in the volume there. Then at the top, near this small move here, we had even very low volume, which was interesting. Now we're coming up again, but look at the volume, it's trending down again. Something seems to be up with this, okay? Something seems to be up, and what is the answer is appearing is that there's less and less interest in the upside, and seems to be more stronger interest in the downside. So that's one of the things we can view, is that the harmony is indicating which direction it wants to go by telling us which more of the activity is appearing on, which legs. It's appearing on the down legs. So it's going to be more bearish in this example. Now if we can combine that with the map, which we did today, then we're going to say to ourselves, the energy or the momentum for the up move is starting to slow down. If you keep seeing that there's strong increases in those momentums on the up moves and decreases on the down moves, it means they're not interested in down trading at this moment. Their more gravity is more to higher prices, and it makes higher prices more likely, or it makes lower prices no likely, depending on what the harmony is telling us. In this case, because the harmony is more bearish, it's telling us that it's more likely we're going to have lower prices. So it's not always guaranteed. It's not always the case, and with macro, it can play over a long time. This is a 2-day chart, but it starts telling us the gravity for that moment. So this is what's telling us the gravity for VRT. Yeah, I'm going to be like in that camp. If you were to do the target analysis, to answer your second question, I'm going to put on the fixed range volume profile. I'll measure the top out. Since we have two big tops, I'm just going to use this one as general, and we'll come and bring it down here. What we don't want to see, what we want to see for a short is we want to see targets on top of the price and price responding, such as right now. If we're seeing bullishness, we're going to be seeing targets on the bottom and no targets above us generally. Okay. So here, this is going to put the target here on the bottom, so prices overcome its major target. So this would be some example that we don't really want to take profit just yet. So on a smaller time frame, just from here to here, we're looking at prices are it's not time to take profit just yet. Okay, we're still gonna probably bounce, or like we already bounced already. We're gonna be looking for this to play out a little bit longer. Now it could just lose steam and then fade away. Targets are not like super, especially if it is. But as it is, this is a good sign that it's not time to enter the short yet. Again, we don't want to short just yet. We're not in that area, so I'm not going to short this right now. We don't want to take profit just yet. Again, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, because we're still in health. There's still a health, but it's likely it's coming up in the future. So we want to be careful. Remember those sword cuts we were talking about, things like that. You're going to want to pay attention to those areas that we're drawing on the screen. Right now, you want to pay attention to that one. Probably going to be paying attention to 130 area. But that's what I see on the board. Probably something like that. I wouldn't really buy it at the moment. I'm not going to buy this there's no money on the table. If I need to buy, I would like to buy it when it's more currently in health, maybe hitting a shortcut, something like that. But right now, I would be looking to take profits over the next maybe couple of weeks if we hit those targets. Set some alerts for 130 area and just hold on. Take some profits here. If you get above there, keep going. But if you get the weakness under 101, you already know what you're looking at. All right, anything else, Jeff, regarding this crypto?
Yes. Is there a reason why to select that portion for the target analysis, not the one on the left with the long red bar?
Why this one rather than this one?
Yes.
The reason is because they're generally in the same area. If you do it here, we're still getting the same answer. But when you're dealing with multiple tops that are in the same area, you always want the one that's farthest out. Same as the rule for the bottom. If I have multiple bottoms and then price moves up, I'm looking at the one that's the farthest out. So the rule for target system that we use in our art for sword method is the target that's farthest out. Take a screenshot. That might help you remember that one.
Okay, thank you.
Always the farthest out. Okay, I'm going to delete that. All right. And I think that's all I'm going to do for today. That's all. I've been with you guys for a few hours now. God bless you. I'll be back after the class to open any other questions. Let me just write some comments on here. Look for possible exit under, I should say that I want to just be brief here so that you guys can look at the video. I'm going to say wait to take profits. Yeah, that's what I'll say. Wait to take profit for the VRT stock. The weakness has not appeared in there, and some of these others are a little bit neutral. So that's what I want to say about these final three. God bless you. I'll upload those image notes in just a few short moments. I'll be right back to answer any final questions.